Hello everyone, and welcome back to Isaiah for Latter-day Saints. Today, we're going to be doing the last chapter, Isaiah 66. How do you feel? A little weird? We've been doing this for a long time. It's weird for me, frankly. But here we are at the end. Been a long time coming. I've been working on this for quite a few years, but here we are. And that's okay. That's okay. I'll be returning to Isaiah in the future in more of an academic setting, probably, but it's sad to be done with this here. There's still lots of unanswered questions, as you know. A lifetime of issues to work through, but it'll be a little sad to be done with this, honestly. But let's just start with Isaiah 66. It's going to look a heck of a lot like Isaiah 1, because it's probably, Isaiah 1's probably written by this guy. Remember, Book of Mormon starts in chapter 2. So this is chapter 1 is probably this guy. And so this is going to draw on a lot of stuff back in 1, or 1 is drawing on stuff from here and then it was put to the beginning. I don't know. But we're going to get that throughout here. And I'll throw back to that. I'll remind you of it as we go through it. So, thus saith the Lord, the heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house that ye build for me? And where is the place of my rest? For all those things have mine hand made, and all those things have been, saith the Lord. But to this man will I look, even to him that is poor and of a contrite spirit, and trembleth at my word. He that killeth an ox as if he slew a man, he that sacrificeth a lamb as if he cut off a dog's neck, he that offereth an oblation as if he offereth swine's blood, he that burneth incense as if he blessed an idol. Yea, they've chosen their own ways, and their soul delighteth in their abominations. I will choose their delusions. I will bring their fears upon them. Because when I called, none did answer. When I spake, they didn't hear. For they did evil before mine eyes, and chose that in which I delighted not. Pretty intense, once again. But this harkens back to chapter 1, and this is similar to Malachi. So we've probably moved back forward into time again. Temple's been rebuilt. And he's saying, the Lord's saying, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. So where is the house that ye built unto me? Really? You think that this house is that important? Now, that's sort of funny, because some people are like, yeah, the house is really important. The temple's really important. But there's another way to look at this, and that is the temple itself doesn't matter if you're not doing things righteously within it. The temple itself is not that big of a deal. It's what you do in it that counts. And you get that in Malachi, of guys sacrificing lambs and stuff like that. And Malachi's like, really, guys? Really? Like, it's what you do in the temple that counts, and less about the temple. In Zechariah, he's going to say, all Judah and Jerusalem's going to be holiness to the Lord like the temple. And all the regular pots are going to become like vessels of the temple. And I think that's what he's saying, that guys, you guys need to do this right. You need to not sacrifice incorrectly. And then we got this all the way back in chapter 1, didn't we? We've come full circle here after all these years. So he says, oh, this doesn't matter. It's what you do in it that matters. For all those things hath mine hand made, and all those things have been, saith the Lord. But to this man will I look, even to him that is poor and of a contrite spirit, and trembleth at my word. Didn't my hand make all of these things? Didn't I cause all these things to come into existence? I'm going to look favorably on these people, the poor and the afflicted in spirit, and those who actually listen to what I'm saying, and tremble at my word. I'm going to look at him that killeth an ox as if he slew a man. You sacrifice his lamb, it's like if you're cutting off a dog's neck, or wringing a dog's neck. You offer an oblation, which is a offering that you pour out, a drink offering, oil or wine. It's like you're pouring swine's blood on the altar. You're burning incense. It's like you're burning incense to an idol, even though you're saying it's to me. They have chosen their own ways, and their soul delighteth in their abominations. They're just doing whatever they want. And it says, it's actually more like they've chosen their own way, and they'll delight in their abominations. Can also be idols, so they'll delight in their idolatry. So he's saying, you guys, go and do whatever you want. You persecute the poor. You do all these other bad things, and then you go and you offer sacrifices, and you think that's okay? How is that okay? Because I will choose their delusions. What does that mean, choose their delusions? So choose to punish them, maybe. and bring their fears upon them. In other words, bring upon them the things that they dread. Because when I called, none did answer. When I spake, they didn't hear. They did evil before mine eyes, and chose that in which I delighted not. They did not respond to me. They did what was evil in my sight, and didn't do that which I wanted them to do. Chose stuff that I specifically didn't like. So he says, hear the word of the Lord, ye that tremble at his word. Your brethren that hated you, that cast you out for my name's sake, said, let the Lord be glorified. But he shall appear to your joy, and they shall be ashamed. A voice of noise from the city, a voice from the temple, a voice of the Lord that rendereth recompense to his enemies. Before she travailed, she brought forth. Before her pain came, she was delivered of a man-child. Who hath heard such a thing? Who hath seen such things? Shall the earth be made to bring forth in one day, or shall a nation be born at once? For as soon as Zion travaileth, she brought forth her children. Shall I bring to the birth, and not cause to bring forth? Saith the Lord, shall I cause to bring forth, and shut the womb? Saith thy God. Rejoice ye with Jerusalem, and be glad with her, all ye that love her. Rejoice for her with her, all ye that mourn for her, that ye may suck and be satisfied with the breasts of her consolations, that ye may milk out and be delighted with the abundance of her glory. So, what is he talking about here? He says, those that tremble at the word of the Lord, that actually care about what God's saying, listen now, your brethren that hated you, that cast you out for my name's sake, said, let the Lord be glorified, but he shall appear to your joy, and they shall be ashamed. Those that are persecuting the poor in the name of the Lord, and saying, oh, you guys that are poor, you need to stay away from the temple, not unlike what we get in the Book of Mormon, right? He says, let the Lord be glorified, but he shall appear to your joy, and they shall be ashamed. The people that are persecuting the poor will be ashamed, but the righteous will have joy. So then he continues talking along this theme. So, a voice of noise from the city, a voice from the temple, a voice of the Lord that rendereth recompense to his enemies. So the voice of the Lord is actually coming out from the temple now. Before she travailed, she brought forth. So before she even went into labor, she had a kid. Before her labor pains came, she had a baby boy. Who's heard of something like this? Who's seen such things? This doesn't actually happen. Shall the earth be made to bring forth in one day? What is that? The earth be made to bring forth. You might say, can a land bring forth all of its people in one day? Can a nation be born all at once? Right? That's the idea. He says, well, sure. As soon as Zion was in labor, she gave birth to her children. Right? He's saying, no one's ever heard of this before. But that's going to happen for Zion. He says, shall I bring to the birth? Shall I cause a woman to almost be ready to give birth and not cause her to bring forth? Saith the Lord. Shall I cause to bring forth and then shut the womb so she can't have another one? Well, no, of course not. Or it could be a parallelism. Shall I open the womb and not bring the child out? Or will I bring almost to birth and then close at the womb at the last minute? He says, well, obviously not. Rejoice ye with Jerusalem and be glad with her, all ye that love her. Rejoice for joy with her, all ye that mourn for her. Everyone, rejoice over Jerusalem. Take delight in her. That ye may suck and be satisfied with the breasts of her consolations, that ye may milk out and be delighted with the abundance of her glory. Everyone, be happy about Jerusalem. All those that love her, be happy about this. Rejoice for joy with her. All that are mourning for her now. And it's almost like a little kid that's born and then is immediately breastfed for the first time and is happy about it. That's the idea that we're getting here. You may drink deeply and be delighted at her splendid bosom, right? It's sort of a pun. The abundance of her glory works, but also from her splendid bosom, literally the breast that we're just talking about for breastfeeding a baby. For thus saith the Lord, behold, I will extend peace unto her like a river, or prosperity even like a river, and the glory of the Gentiles like a flowing stream. Then shall ye suck and be borne upon her sides, and be dandled upon her knees. The Gentiles are going to flow in like a stream, and they're going to take care of Israel like a mother putting a baby on her knee. As one whom his mother comforteth, so will I comfort you, and you will be comforted in Jerusalem. It's just like a woman comforts their kids. I'll comfort you, and Jerusalem will comfort you. It says, "And when ye see this, your heart shall rejoice, and your bones shall flourish like an herb. And the hand of the Lord shall be known towards his servants, and his indignation towards his enemies. For behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many." So he's saying, when you see all this, you'll be happy. Your bones will flourish like an herb. In other words, your bones will grow like grass does, and the hand of the Lord will be known towards his servants. All people, all of his servants will see what he's doing, and see his anger towards God's enemies. Because the Lord's going to come with fire. His chariots are going to be like a whirlwind, and to render his anger with fury. It's the idea that God has these flaming chariots. We get that back in Kings when Elijah gets picked up, right? There's this idea of these flaming chariots. You get it in the Elisha narrative too. So it's going to be like that. They're going to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. They're going to come in and sweep through everything and wipe everything out. For by fire and sword will the Lord plead with all flesh. By fire and by his sword, the Lord is going to judge everyone, in other words. He's going to come in and enter into judgment with his sword on all humanity, and those slain by Yahweh will be many. Once again, pretty gritty image, but he's saying, you guys need to repent, or you guys are going to have a problem. They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh and the abomination and the mouse, shall be consumed together, saith the Lord. So he's really coming down now. Usually this image is reserved for Israel's enemies, but now the Israelites that are not righteous have become God's enemies. So he's going after them. He says, as for those who consecrate and purify themselves to enter the gardens, this is these ritual, idolatrous settings, follow the one in the middle who eats of swine's flesh. They're all following these rituals in these gardens of this one guy in the middle. They're all eating swine's flesh and unclean things and rodents and stuff. The things that they're doing are going to come together, are all going to come to an end. And this is what Jehovah is saying. So once again, that's pretty intense. That's pretty intense. It says, for I know their works and their thoughts. It shall come, and I will gather together all nations and tongues. They shall come and see my glory. It says, I know what they're doing. I know everything they're thinking. It says, it shall come. What shall come? This time shall come. It says, I'm coming to gather together nations of every tongue, from every language. They can come and see my glory. People from all over the world are going to see what I'm doing. I'll set a sign among them and send those that escape of them unto the nations. To Tarshish pull and Lud that draw the bow, to Tuban and Javan, to the isles far off. They've not heard my fame, neither have they seen my glory, and they'll declare my glory among the Gentiles. So where are these places? Once again, Tarshish. We're not completely sure, but it's far away. Pul is... We don't know all these places. Like I said, Tarshish is some faraway place, maybe Carthage, maybe farther west in Spain. Pul is maybe Ethiopia somewhere down the south, maybe Ethiopia, Sudan area. Lud may be in present-day Turkey somewhere a little bit farther north that draw the bow. So he's talking about all these people from all over the world that have these different things that they do, and some of these guys are archers. To Tubal. What is Tubal? That draw the bow can also be translated as Meshech, which is another place maybe out there in sort of the way in the east, sort of the Armenia, Caucasus Mountains, sort of east of the Black Sea area, way out there. And this Tubal place is another place up there in Turkey, and Javan is supposed to represent Greece, or Yavan. So you've got this, he's saying all over, north, south, east, and west, from all over, everyone, all the isles that are far away that haven't heard of my fame or seen my glory, they're going to declare my glory among the Gentiles. So people are going to go out and tell these people about the Gentiles. So bring all your brethren for an offering unto the Lord out of all nations, upon horses and chariots and litters and mules and swift beasts, to my holy mountain Jerusalem. People are going to come from all over, and they're all going to offer to the Lord in Jerusalem. The children of Israel bring an offering in a clean vessel unto the house of the Lord. From all over the world, people are going to descend on Jerusalem and offer in the temple. I'll also take of them for priests and Levites, saith the Lord. Gentiles are going to become priests and Levites. I don't think we get how radical this is. This is kind of crazy. For as the new heavens and the new earth which I will make, which we just talked about, shall remain before me, saith the Lord, so shall your seed and your name remain. Your name is going to be like the new heavens and new earth that always exist. Now it shall come to pass from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord. So instead of from one new moon to another and one Sabbath to another, when people usually come to worship, and it's just the Israelites, everybody's going to come. All flesh, all the earth is what that means, is going to worship before the Lord. And they will go forth and look upon the carcasses of men that have transgressed against me. For their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be an abhorring unto all flesh. So all those that do not come to worship before the Lord, this is like in Zechariah, will be killed. And people will go and look on the carcasses of those that have been killed because they did not do this. Because their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched. This sort of idea of this hell imagery, right? They shall be an abhorring unto all flesh. So that's very, very sort of uncomfortable. It's actually hard to know where this is supposed to go. Some people put verse 23 actually at the end. All flesh will come worship before me, saith the Lord. That's the last thing. That might have gotten switched at the end, but the idea, regardless, is everyone's going to come worship the Lord, and if you don't, you're going to have a bad time. What does that mean? Their worm dieth not. Literally, the worm that's consuming their dead bodies is never going to die, and the fire that's burning them, when they pile up the bodies to burn them, are never going to be quenched. And everyone will hate this image of this constantly burning and being eaten pile of corpses, okay? So that's the end. That's the end of Tree to Isaiah. So this is pretty intense, right? This is the strange contrast in the Old Testament between the beautiful imagery of God helping all these people and all the nations going to Jerusalem and becoming priests and everything, and those that don't obey are going to get slaughtered. Completely slaughtered, and their bodies are going to get stacked up and burned and eaten by worms. So there's this strange contrast that we get here with this beautiful, beautiful chapter with also this sort of anger in it. Now, is this original? I don't know. It might be an addition, right? Some of this xenophobic stuff doesn't seem to fit, and it could be an addition to the text. So it could just end with 23. That from one moon to another and one Sabbath to another shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord. Great, good, we're good, right? That may have been the original, but then somebody else added a sort of xenophobic thing at the end. This happened with Proto-Isaiah way, way back in the day, so this could have happened here too. So we don't know, but that's this chapter. But this idea would have been hugely heretical at the time of Gentiles coming and being priests. He's saying that's what's going to happen. And he has this beautiful idea of inclusiveness, of everybody that's righteous is included in Israel. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. Everybody that's righteous is included. And for me, distinctly club-toting pagan kind of guy, that's comforting, right? There may be a little bit Israelite in there somewhere, but it's pretty dang diluted if there is. I'm not from this. So the idea of me and probably you being able to be sort of adopted in is a beautiful thing. Most of us are a little of both, a little Israelite and a lot of Gentile. But he's saying, you know what, that doesn't matter. Everybody that's righteous comes. Everybody that's righteous can come into the temple and serve. And to me, I'm pleased that it sort of ends on that. And like I said, the last verse may be an interpolation. And if it is, then that's where we end, is everybody coming up to the temple and worshiping the Lord. Everyone in the whole world can come. And I think that is the message. And I think in some ways that's what we've been leading up to for a long time. These sacrifices you've been doing, if you're just going through the motions, they don't matter. You may as well just be killing dogs or killing swine. It doesn't matter. What matters is you. What matters is your heart. If your heart's not in the right place, offerings aren't going to do you a dang bit of good. But if your heart's in the right place, then your offerings are worth something. And God is going to protect all of his people that actually do what he says all over the world. It doesn't matter if they're of Israel or not. And that's glorious to me. It really is glorious. So, anyway, that's it for Isaiah. I hope that you've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed it. This has been a beautiful experience to be here with you doing Isaiah. I'll miss this. But I hope you really enjoyed this and that you got a lot out of it. And now when you go through Isaiah again, you can understand it a little bit better. There's lots of different ways to read some of these things. I've given you one way to read him. Sometimes it was a toss-up. Some of the stuff in Trito Isaiah, I don't know if it's gone back in chronological order to talk about just after the temple is destroyed, right after they come back by the Babylonians and they're seeing the destruction, or if it's later after the possible failed revolt against the Persians, and it's hard to say. So continue to look at it. Continue to think about some of these issues and try to grapple with some of these questions. You might notice things that I didn't notice. And we can maybe work through some of these things. This is a first pass. I'm going to try to maybe get a book out of this stuff. And that'll be a good experience to go through it again and look at everything. Well, I hope that you've really come to love him. Both Isaiah and Trito Isaiah. I know I have. There's a lot of beautiful imagery in here that speaks to us today. Maybe when you go to the temple, think about Trito Isaiah. Think about all the temple imagery in Trito Isaiah. And think about becoming kings and priests, like he's been talking about. Think about all of us being crowned as kings and queens. There's a lot here that can speak to us throughout time. So don't just leave this behind. Really think about it. If there are things you need to change about your life based on what Isaiah said, do it. This changed me. Going through Isaiah carefully changed me. Changed how I treat people. And I hope that it can do that for you. And I think Isaiah would have hoped, and Trito Isaiah would have hoped, that would do that for you too. And I just want to close by saying that I have a strong testimony that what Isaiah said is right. I really do. That things are bad sometimes, but God can make things okay. That, yeah, we mess up, but that we can repent. And I personally think that Isaiah did know about Jesus, and that he tips his hat to the atonement throughout the book. He's not going to be super obvious about it for various reasons. Casting pearls before swine kind of a thing. It's double coding so that the audience that knows about it will pick up what he's putting down. But I think that he knows about Christ and testifies of Christ in a beautiful and subtle way. And we can take a lot from that. And that Christ really is the one that can save us. So if we're going to read this Christologically, which I have throughout, Christ is the one that can save us. Christ is the one that can bring us back to the presence of God, despite the desolation that we may feel in our lives, or may literally experience in our lives, depending on where we live, that God can make things okay. Well, thank you very much for doing this with me, for going through Isaiah with me. When I started this was just a thing I was doing for a few friends who had asked me about it, but this has become a big thing with people from all over listening in on this, and I've been really pleased to do this with you all. I actually had a friend go to Poland and say that in Sunday school somebody referenced Isaiah from Mormon. So I'm pleased that this has become such a big thing, and thank you all for doing this with me. And I was glad to do this with you. Thanks very much for joining me through all of this.